Hey folks, it's Ray, Rainmaker.com here, and today with a brand new Garmin Venu SQ. This watch essentially takes the Venu from a year ago and makes it square, hence the SQ part. Square, it looks like square, you get it? It's officially called the Venu SQ. It's pronounced the Venu SQ according to Garmin. I asked if it was like square or squircle or who knows what, but it is actually SQ. And you may be asking what's different? Don't worry, I've got to here. So this watch here is basically a little sibling of the original Venu. And we're gonna go through all those differences right now. And I've gotta go to my list here because it's kind of a long list, but it's also kind of not. Now, let me also bring my box up here. Okay, so there we go. The Venu on the left and the Venu SQ on the right. Pricing wise, it's $199 for the Venu SQ and $249 for the SQ with music, versus the Venu, which is the round one over there, that is theoretically $349, but it's often $299. Start off at $399. Just call it $299 because that's what you're probably going to see it for. Now, the first most obvious difference is that one is circle and one is square. That's pretty straightforward. Now, in the case of the original Venu, it's a 1.2 inch diameter display versus the 1.3 inch diagonal display of the Venu SQ. They are both always on if you want them to be, or always off if you want them to be. Right now you see them turning off because I'm not wearing it, but you see in the case of the Venu SQ, I've got the always on setting enabled. So when it goes into that low power mode and you put your wrist down, it still shows the time there. And then once I wake it back up again, it goes ahead and it shows the full glory of that screen. Speaking of that screen, another change is in the past, there was the live watch faces on the original Venu. Here, let me show you that real quick. Okay, so these ones here, save changes, and this is a live watch face versus that is not. And now it's not much. Basically, it's a tiny little bit of animation that occurs when you get back to that watch face. So I'm gonna go back start and go to here, and you'll see it like does that like for 2.5 seconds. It's not much. That's not on the Venu SQ though, for whatever reason. Battery life, it is the same, 6 days of standby for both, but 20 hours for the original Venu for GPS on time and 14 hours for the Venu SQ. If you have the music edition, it's 6 hours for the Venu SQ for music plus GPS. Both watches have 2 physical buttons on the side. Both watches have the same optical heart rate sensor on the back there. This will turn on in just a second. And so no changes between that at all. It's all kind of the same stuff there. Internally, things are a bit different though. In the case of the original Venu, it had a barometric altimeter as well as a gyro. In the case of the Venu SQ, it does not. So that means you will not get stairs or flights of stairs tracked on the Venu SQ because that requires a barometric altimeter. It also means you won't get ascent and descent on the Venu SQ if you're out hiking or things like that. You will see that data afterwards though in Garmin Connect or Garmin Connect to Mobile, and it will use a GPS altimeter in this to record GPS elevation into the files itself. And last but not least, in terms of differences, if you go into the sport modes and go to yoga in particular, it's the most obvious one to see it. I'm just going to choose that right there. I'm going to swipe up. I'm going to choose workouts. I'm going to choose the sun one. I'm going to do workouts, start, and you'll see these animations. And these animations are not in the Venu SQ. So these ones right here, and it shows you what you're supposed to be doing for each individual one. I can go to next and go through the next animation here. Let's see if it shows. There we go. You can see it a little better on that particular one. Those animations are not in the Venu SQ. So if you were to kind of distill it all down, basically the core main differences are 1, slightly less battery life for GPS on time in particular, 2, no live watch faces, 3, no workout animations that you see there, and 4, no barometric altimeter, which means that you're not going to get stairs and flights and ascent and descent on the watch itself. Oh, hey, and a quick note, if you are finding this video useful or interesting or helpful, please go ahead and whack that like button at the bottom there. It really helps out this video and the channel quite a bit. Okay, so with that out of the way, kind of the differences there, let's talk about the basics. So for that, I'm gonna back out to the main menu right here. Here we go, right back there. This is the main watch face. This is totally customizable. I actually I selected a bunch of things and put it on this watch face. This is not the stock watch face. So you just go into the watch faces here. There we go. And you can choose different ones. I think the stock one is like over here. It was super boring. It was about as Kansas as that's the stock watch face. About as Kansas as you can get right there. So I changed it up to something cooler. You can also download watch faces. So I downloaded this one here onto it. The one thing to keep in mind though is because it's a square watch face, actually I interrupt this to show you a smartphone notification and how that works live. And oh, it's gone. No, but I can go back in video and show you that. And you can see that's a lot brighter and crispier than a lot of the other Garmin displays that are not AMOLED. Like this one is here. You can see the icons are in there. It's a nice touch. Like it looks really clean, really smooth. So scrolling down or going down from that, we have the My Day. You can see you've got 2 rides in this morning as part of my commute around town, dropping off the kids. And then you can see also additional stats by tapping on it. So there's my steps for the day. There's my calories for the day. And scrolling down here, each of those rides, intensity minutes, steps again, and then I can tap on these again to see sort of a chart for the week as well. And so there we go, distance going back here into the widgets, scrolling on down, these are all the health stats. So my heart rate, my stress level, my body battery, and then go back here. There we go. And then my respiration rate. I can tap on this and get more details, typically for the last 4 hours or so. So each of those stats there as well. All this is also tracked into Garmin Connect and Garmin Connect Mobile 2. Now I can access the settings by long holding the bottom right-hand button there. I can customize the watch face, the always-on display. Keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, by default, it's not an always-on display, but you can change it to always-on, which means that it stays on all the time. That does burn battery quite a bit, as does pulse ox, by the way, if you enable that for SpO2 tracking. So just sort of balance that and keep that in mind. And then go into settings down here. I can pair up sensors, for example. I can change my wrist heart rate settings. From a sensor standpoint, ANT+, Bluetooth Smart. You can see there's headphones, heart rate, speed, cadence for cycling, footpod for running, Tempi for temperature settings. Garmin Varia lights, Garmin Varia radar. So those are cycling lights and cycling radar. There's also, looks like golf club sensors as well. You can see my power beats there are paired up. They're floating over here somewhere for music. Meanwhile, if I go back to the menu here, my upper right-hand button accesses the controls menu. This is where I can do something like pay for something with contactless payments. I can access music really quickly. I can lock the screen. I can put it in do not disturb mode. All that's there. So let me just show you payments. The way this works is that you add your credit card to this as part of Garmin Pay. It supports a whole bunch of banks, but not every bank. So it really depends on the country. In the US, you're probably pretty well covered. In other places, not so much. Here in the Netherlands, my bank, ING, isn't on it. So it just going to kind of vary, but I have my US credit cards here loaded up. And so you hold down this upper right hand button to access this quick menu, and you can see that little wallet icon up there. Then go ahead and enter my passcode in. And then I've got my payment reader right here. Just make a charge. I actually have a payment reader. How cool is that? Like, they're super cheap to buy on Amazon. So I'm gonna go card reader. I'm gonna charge it for $1. There we go. So you can see that right there. And that was really quick. So I just brought it in there and I paid myself $1 and probably lost like $2 in transaction fees. But you got the demo and that's what matters. Also, I used this morning to get milk at the mini mart nearby. So it all works pretty well there. Pretty seamless, kind of like it has in the past. As long as your bank is supported, you're pretty much good to go. Next is music. So we'll do sort of the same thing right here. We'll tap this and go down to Spotify icon. You can access this a whole bunch of different ways, but this is just one way to access that. Now I'm gonna go find my headphones because I didn't think to remember them here. 1 second. Okay, got them right here. Open them up, take them out. There we go, and go back into the menu and hit play. It's gonna connect to the power beats right there, connected. Pretty straightforward. And now it's playing. And I can go into the music that I have on here. So in this case, I've just downloaded some of the Spotify workout playlists, and I can add more of those down there by clicking add music and podcasts. There we go. And you can hear it there for like 1.5 seconds before I get flagged for a copyright violation. So that is music. Again, no changes there at all. It's basically the same as it's been in the past. And finally, we'll do sports now. So to get to sports, I go on the upper right-hand side there. I tap that button and I can choose a sport mode. In this case, these are my favorites right there, but I can also just swipe down and you can see many, many more sport modes there. If we go back to run, I'll just choose that. In this case, you can see it's already connected to my headphones because they're still chilling out right there. The heart rate sensor is enabled in the back. It's going to try to find my heart rate. It's also going to try to find GPS because it's an outdoor run. I can choose an indoor run, a treadmill run as you saw in the sport list there. And then going back, I can go down here at the bottom and swipe. I can choose a structured workout. There are some workouts that are already on here that they've preloaded, but I could also load a custom workout from Garmin Connect, from Training Peaks, from Any of the platforms out there, TrainerRoad actually pushes custom workouts to this just fine. Going on back, there's also Garmin Coach for training plans. Like, this is all stuff that isn't new here. I'm just kind of explaining it in case you're new to the Venu Garmin ecosystem. Down the bottom there is settings. This is where I can configure data screens. I can choose up to 3 custom screens, each one up to 3 data fields on it. So if I look at this one right here, edit data fields, this is kind of like an overall one showing my overall time, my overall distance, my overall pace. I can choose a given field and I can change it to a whole boatload of fields in here. So you don't get as many options as you would find, of course, on a Garmin Forerunner or a Fenix series watch. You don't get things like Pace Pro or the track mode that was found for the new Forerunner 745 or Climb Pro for hiking in the mountains. But you get the core stuff that if you're out doing 5Ks, 10Ks, even a marathon, you can easily use this watch to do that. The battery will certainly get you to the end of that. Anyways, scrolling back on through here, once you start your workout, you just press the upper right-hand button right there, and now it'll show the data fields that you configured. And of course, indoors, I'm not going to move anywhere. Also, live track is here. So in this case, it just notified a bunch of my friends with my live track link, and they're probably pretty excited about seeing me once again starting another activity here at the office going nowhere. Down there, you can see that heart rate zone gauge I showed earlier, and then back to the data fields that I've configured. Once I'm done, I just simply hit stop. It'll show me a summary. I think I've got a better picture here from one of my runs of that. It'll show me a map of that, just a very simple, like, breadcrumb style map, as well as a VO2 max value. Keep in mind, VO2 max values are something that takes usually a couple runs to stabilize. And in general, higher intensity runs will produce more accurate VO2 max estimates than lower intensity ones. Okay, there you go, a complete look at the Garmin Venu SQ. Now, this watch isn't like introducing any new features. Like, literally, there are 0 new features on this watch in the Garmin realm or ecosystem. That's not the point of this watch. The point of this watch is to take the Venu sort of watch design, the look of that, and bring it down to a more affordable price. That's it. And they've done that. They've done that quite successfully. If you don't want music, now this is $199, basically lobbing $100 off of the original Venu price for an AMOLED display that's really pretty. And if you do want music, it's $249, which is lobbing roughly, $50 to $100 off the price, depending on sales and stuff like that. So again, these options are there for you. And yeah, it looks a little bit like an Apple Watch, but Garmin's been making rectangular watches well before Apple was, so this isn't really something new to them. The bezel looks a little bit more Apple-like than not, but I think that's kind of the general progression of bezels on most watches as we look over the last couple of years. And if you're trying to decide between something like the Apple Watch SE or this or a Fitbit Versa 3, I've got a Versa 3 review coming up probably next week or so. From an Apple Watch SE standpoint, it's not as accurate as this, but that watch makes a better like day-to-day watch versus this is definitely a much better sport-specific watch. So again, you kind of got to decide what you want out of it. Anyways, hopefully you found this review interesting or useful, whatever the case may be. If so, go ahead and whack that like button at the bottom there, or hit the subscribe button for plenty more sports technology goodness. With that, have a good one.